What's going on, Mesquite, Texas? Welcome to episode 69 of Talking Throws Podcast, Texas Style, Season 5. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Janelle.
We pointed at each other. We're throws coaches with the Thorn Factory. You can go to that website, thethornfactory.com, to look at our bios and find out our contact information. But maybe you're out in the Weatherford area, West Texas area. We got a couple coaches out in that area. Coach Kai Smith runs west at the Thorn Factory, so he does most of our javelin lessons and handles a lot of our multi-event athletes. So if you're fall into that category, give Coach Kai a call, and he'll be able to help you out. Coach Jarvis, east at the Thorn Factories, in the other side of Dallas-Fort Worth on the Mesquite area, does some training in Cedar Hill, Duncanville, DeSoto area, and even down in Waxahachie. So if you're looking for summer track, summer lessons, especially in the distance, our new guy, Morgan Knight, former Abilene Christian All-American thrower, is running Knight Power and Performance out of Abilene. If you're in the greater West Texas area, looking for lessons, maybe doing summer track, anything throwing wise, Coach Morgan can be able to help you out. So reach out to Coach Morgan. You can find his contact information on our site as well. Well, I thank our sponsors for season 5. Without them, we can't do what we do, especially Texas Track and Field Coach Association. Stuart Cantor is the man when it comes to everything track and field in the state of Texas. Go to ttfca.org for the latest in track and field news. What's cool is there's been some press releases last year about celebrating 50 years of girls track and field in the state of Texas, and there's some really good articles on that. So go to the website, and if you go to the website under the More tab, you'll be able to see those articles, and those are really good reads. 4throws.com, quality implements priced right. Go to 4throws.com, use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. Right now, you can find a Tailwind Palantic Javelin, a 1K 70% rim weight discus, a super 85% aloe steel discus for basically $99. That's a steel price. There's also training hammers, training shot puts as well. And also then you can find our favorite discus, Fiber Sports Discus, is on 4throws.com as well. These are the 2Ks. If you're looking for the right discus to be able to maybe not just look at the rim weight, then Fiber Sports Discus is going to be the disc for you. Porta-Circle makes throwing more accessible. Go to porta-circle.com. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. Maybe your ring floods when the weather's bad. Maybe you can't go outside because of whatever conditions. Maybe you got to go do practice in a hallway or in a gym. What better tool to use than a Porta-Circle? Throw that down. You can do discus, you can do shot, you can even do hammer. So go to porta-circle.com, use TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. Our favorite athletic development in the greater Austin area, Zach Phillips. His cell is 512-507-8347. Go to readyupad.com or follow Ready Up on Instagram and Facebook. Then again, Fiber Sports Discus, taking a new way to get the distance out of just looking at the rim weight. So if you have questions, you can go to fibersports.com. That is ran and operated by Mr. Bruce Caldwell. We love Bruce. And then again, you can find that through that site or go to 4throws.com. And then also to remind everybody that you can see our pretty faces on on YouTube channel. And we have, not my pretty face, Janelle's pretty face. So we're on YouTube right now. So if you want to find a past episode or something we did in season 4, they're all on YouTube as well. So please go give us a thumbs up if you like, and a thumbs down if you don't like. So our guest today is a special one. This gentleman has been in the throwing coaching world for a long period of time. He attended Mesquite High School with a lifetime PR coming out of Mesquite High of 58.7.5. Right after his senior year, he went to University of Texas to throw. He was a 3-time qualifier for the NCAA Outdoor Championships. His senior year, he was an All-American. He had a PR of 62 feet during his senior year at University of Texas. But what's cool about him, too, is he even through after college as well. But then he got into coaching and teaching, and he served coaching and teaching in the greater Texas area for over 35 years with stops at TCU, Plano East. He served as the head football coach at Mesquite High as assistant. Then he came back to be the head coach, and he's also the throws coach during that time. And just recently retired in 2016. So it is our pleasure to welcome to Talking Throws podcast, Mr. Robbie Robinson.
All right.
How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. How are y'all tonight?
We're well. Thank you so much for being on.
When I saw the lineup, I don't know that I'm worthy to be on here with some of these guys.
Yes, you are.
So we are very honored to have you on and super excited to hear your throwing career and your coaching career. So let's jump way back. When did you first start throwing? How old were you?
Oh, gosh, I think I was in about the 5th grade. Back in those days, it seemed like during the summertime for kids, there was baseball. And then we started in Mesquite a summer track program. So, all this other stuff that's out there these days, all these camps. So that didn't exist back in those days and all. So I got involved, with the summer track program here in Mesquite, I guess, when I was about the 5th grade or so.
Wow. Were you did you run, or were you ran and you found you were the slow guy and they said that you need to go throw?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it started at first. Although I will tell you, when I got into high school, I guess I had developed enough to where I ran the sprints when I was a freshman in high school, if you can believe that. But by the time I was a sophomore, my track coach in high school, he said, "No, I want you just to stick with the throws," and that worked out a lot better.
Gotcha. And going back to that summer track program, was there a coach that you kind of stood out during that time period that kind of, helped you, introduce you to shot put, how to hold it, how to stand? Do you remember back in those days if there was a coach that kind of helped you?
I do. The guy that really started the program is a guy named Jim McCoy. And he actually lived around the block from me, but he was our assistant principal at my elementary school at that time. He had been a former coach. He'd been out in Ennis when his family moved to Mesquite. And, he may have done some middle school coaching, before he got into administration. But once he got into school administration, he still had the itch to coach. And, he had a bunch of us on a youth league basketball team, and here's a funny story. Our middle school was just right. It wasn't very far at all from our elementary school. He'd come get us out of class, when the middle school was having athletics, having basketball practice. Yeah. He'd come take us out of class, and we'd go over to the middle school and practice basketball against the middle school, or what we call then junior high.
Yeah.
I tell you, my 6th grade teacher was ready to bite nails in half at time.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That had to be a positive experience.
Yeah, but he's the one that kind of got the summer track program going here in Mesquite, and of course I was close to him and got into throwing then. He's the one, that kind of taught me the initial fundamentals, about throwing the shot, and not so much disc. I didn't do a lot of discus when I was younger. I did a little bit more of that as I got older, but he's the one, that kind of laid the foundation for me.
Do you feel like you, at an early age, you had a knack for throwing? I'm sure you were throwing it against people your same age. Were you kind of winning, which kind of maybe fueled the fire?
Well, it seemed like, I was just kind of one of those guys. A lot of kids didn't stick with it. And I stuck with it. And, as time kept going, I guess just putting the time in as much as anything, I started being successful with it. And of course, success breeds success, as y'all well know. And so I just kept on, but I think the extra time, especially as I got older, I continued to be involved in that summer track program. I'll tell you what, even when I was in college, when I would come home, I'd go to some of those summer track meets around the area, just to stay in touch with things. I was driving around, the Dallas area on those Friday nights, just throwing in that open division of the shot at those summer track meets.
Wow.
What was was it Mesquite Track Club? What was the exact name?
I think it was just at first it kind of came through the Parks and Recreation Department here in Mesquite, and I guess they're the ones that really kind of sponsored it all.
Mesquite,
and all yeah,
okay,
that's what I remember.
Cool. So going into your junior high, were you, when did you first learn the glide, and how was that success carried over into junior high, which carried over into high school, of course?
What I really did, I guess the best way to describe it, I always started, they taught me early, to get at the back of the ring, put my back to the throwing sector and come across the ring. Up until I got it really to high school, I just kind of ran across the ring or walked back, kind of backward, walked across the ring and then let it go. My shot put coach when I was a freshman in high school is the one that introduced me to actually gliding across the ring.
Really?
And, yeah, that's when I really first did that.
What was his name?
His name was Don Childs.
Don Childs. Awesome.
Yep.
Now I have to ask, so did you play football as well during your freshman year?
Yep,
okay. What position did you play?
Well, primarily defensive end, tight end, defensive end. When I first started, I was a bigger kid, so I was a offensive, defensive lineman and tackle. And then, as time went on, I slimmed up a little bit more and started playing end and tight end and all.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you throw on the varsity as a freshman? Were you kind of slowly nudged to go into your varsity throwing?
I did as a sophomore. That's when, as a sophomore. We had a freshman track team when I was in school, and so we had our own back then. We had our own freshman meets and all that we went to. So and that's when I was doing all the running then, and as well as trying to throw too. So, but then after that freshman year, that's when my track coach, my high school varsity track coach, told me, he said, "You just concentrate on the throws and all." So, and that was okay with me. And he was a heck of a track coach. His name was Harold Perkins, and he went on, became the head track coach at UTA for several years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he sure did. He had run track at Baylor. He had been, I forget his exact events, but he had run track at Baylor. He knew a lot of track people. As a matter of fact, I guess I don't remember if I was a sophomore or junior before our season started. He was good friends with Don Hood, who coached at Abilene Christian for a long time. But at the time, Coach Hood was the track coach at Howard Payne.
Yeah.
And Coach Perkins loaded all us throwers up and took us out to see Don Hood one Saturday morning out at Howard Payne. And he worked with us some out there. And that was my first introduction to Don Hood, but stayed somewhat in contact with him throughout my whole throwing career and all. So
how big were you, just to give us a picture, how big were you probably your freshman, sophomore year?
Oh man, I guess I was probably 5'10", 5'11", probably 5'11", and probably back then, I guess probably about 175 pounds, something like that. 170 pounds. Yeah, I wasn't very big, guys. Even as a senior in high school, I was like 185, 190 pounds, something like that. So, yeah, I was mainly throwing off technique and speed and quickness back in those days.
And that's the reason I was getting to. You threw over 50 feet as a sophomore and went up to 57 as a junior. My God, that's a big jump. And that's the reason I asked about your. Yeah. Now, just little background. Did you come from an athletic family? Was your dad, was he like, where are you going? And you were like, I'm going to the Mesquite track. Was he supportive of this? Did you have brothers and sisters that, were in the track and field as well?
I had a younger sister that ended up running track in high school, but
okay.
Not really, to be honest with you. I mean, my dad had played high school sports. My granddad was a bigger man, and they always told me he was pretty good in basketball and all.
Okay.
But that obviously had been a good while back. And my granddad, that was my granddad on my dad's side. My granddad on my mom's side had played football and baseball and probably everything, back in the day. But so I definitely was exposed to athletics, but I didn't have any college athletes, or anything like that, in my family that I'm aware of anyway.
Gotcha. We just asked to kind of set that up. So going back to your sophomore, junior year, you're throwing on the varsity. You make regional qualifier at throwing over 50 feet. You were the district champion runner-up. Was there something that Coach Childs kind of implemented in your technique with glide from that kind of run through that you developed?
It was kind of a procedure adapting over to it, took some time, adjusting to that. It wasn't easy, but the crazy thing, remember that first guy, Jim McCoy, I was telling you about, at the district track meet my sophomore year, he showed up out there. And, when you go to some of these high school track meets, a lot of these kids, they don't have any clue, they're just in between throws. They just kind of lay on the ground or sit on the ground. Their name called, then you get up and go over and pick up a shot and get in the ring and do your thing. Well, he was there at the meet that day, and he comes over and he said, Robinson, you need to get up and get moving. And so he got me up and had me running sprints and all in between throws. And I hadn't thrown 50 feet all year long.
Really?
And, lo and behold, he's on me having me do that. So I'm lathered up pretty good, and I can't even remember which throw it was, but I just picked the thing up, went out there, and after he'd had me running, I jumped in the ring and lo and behold, hit over 50 feet, shocked the heck out of everybody there, ended up finishing second that day and
wow.
Made it to the regional meet as a sophomore. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Do you remember the person that got first place? I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah. He was he's a big kid from Highland Park, was in our district at the time.
Okay.
His name was John Van Amberg, and John went on to play college football at Baylor, as a matter of fact. So he was a really good athlete, but he won it. He was a year older than I was. So he won it the next year. And I mean, he won it that year. And, we had the following year, we had a lot of tight competitions and stuff, but I was able to win it as a junior.
Yeah.
So wait, I have a question. So after Coach McCoy told you to get up and run, was that your pattern? Did you continue to do that with throws, or did you go back to laying down?
No, I didn't do that anymore. Live and learn, and that was a huge positive.
Now, because I know you have a strong tie to strength and conditioning. What type of weightlifter did the coaches at Mesquite High introduce you to weightlifting, during this time going into your junior year?
Yeah, they did. But, back in those days, we had primarily one of those, what they called a universal gym to lift on, and, the stack weights, you put the pin in and all that. So that's what we lifted on back then. Coach Perkins really got me on. Of course, we lifted during football, but it was kind of a combination of a speed weight type deal, hurry, and, but Coach Perkins is the one, that really kind of got me into a set and rep system somewhat, on that universal gym. But I didn't really learn as far as the free weights and all that till I got to UT.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. So, going to your junior year, you're kind of, almost, I don't want to say big man on campus from your sophomore year, but you had a big increase, 7 feet. was huge back in those days, especially with that 12-pound shot put. Well, did you have a growth spurt during that time?
You know, I guess I probably did. I don't really recall that
Okay.
much. But again, the big thing, I was working at it during those summers. I did the summer track. Well, I didn't see a lot of those guys I was throwing against at those high school meets, at those meets during the summer. And so I really always really attributed a lot of my success to getting ahead during the summertime.
Wow.
I love that.
Wow. Great point. Great point. So you go into your senior year, you're the district champion, you throw 58.7.5. Do you remember that meet that you threw that 58?
Oh yeah, I remember it real well. See, I had a lot of adversity. I tore my knee up playing football my senior year.
Oh wow.
And, yeah, I mean, I had
Right knee?
left knee, and
okay.
I mean, it was not only the meniscus, I tore the medial collateral, and
wow.
yeah, it was a mess. And so I'd had major surgery, and I can't remember if it was right at the end of November, 1st of December. And so obviously whether I was even going to get to compete was going to be a real question, but lo and behold, it seemed like maybe I missed the first meet or two, but the guy that did surgery on me, his name was Pat Evans, Dr. Pat Evans, and he had been Cowboys doctor, orthopedic doctor and all. He was very well known around the Dallas area, and he eventually went on and got involved pretty heavily with the rodeo circuit and stuff, kind of in the latter part of his life as far as, treating those guys and all. But he did a magnificent job on me. The kind of the standard thing they tell people back then is, well, eventually, you'll probably have arthritis in that knee. I'm telling you guys, even to this day, I've had fewer problems with my left knee than I've had my right.
Wow.
And he did a magnificent job on me, and I was able to make it back. And actually, but obviously there were some setbacks that year. I'd actually gone in, thinking I might have a chance to compete for the state championship as a senior. But, once I started back, I was back down. Seemed like my first meet out my senior year, I want to say I was back down around, I think the 54 range, low 54s, somewhere in there. And it was a process the whole season, trying to bring it back. And I won the district championship again as a senior, and got to regionals, but I didn't make the state meet. But back in those days, they used to have what they called a state qualifiers meet the week before state meet. It was kind of between regional meet and the state meet. There was an off week, and we went over to Clark Stadium in Fort Worth. Coach Perkins took me over there, and of course there were a lot of guys there that were going to throw at the state meet the next week. But that's where I hit my PR, 58.7.5, last meet of the year and all. And of course I was in really good competition with a lot of those guys, like I said, that were going to go on and throw the following week at the state meet. But I remember it well. I remember that very well.
Wow. So it was like all or nothing at that point.
Yeah, it was. And, so it was a real thrill. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I may have hit that on my last throw that day. So it may not have been. It may have been my fifth throw. But, was able, after coming off that surgery, just able to come back from it and actually PR by a little bit over a foot and stuff, So all in all, it was a disappointment because I didn't make the state meet, but that kind of helped ease things when you sit back and put it all in perspective.
Yeah. Now, how did Texas come in and were you looking at colleges to kind of go throw at before your junior year? When did you start getting some interest from colleges?
Oh, trying to remember. I had a couple offers in football. Some small schools in football, And I really wanted to see what I could do in track. Plus, I'll be honest with you, a little bit gun shy, right then in the midst of all that, I was in the midst of rehab and stuff, rehabbing that knee, that I'd just blown out and all. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to hold off and wait and see how track season goes. And we'll go from there,
Okay.
And of course, Coach Perkins with his track connections, I think really helped me a lot too.
Wow.
He was able to kind of sell my potential, I guess, as opposed to what I'd actually done. The fact, like you'd said, I did throw 57 feet, a little over that as a junior, and had been able to come back off that knee surgery and all. So I'm sure those things worked in my favor.
Yeah, for sure. Did you go on to any recruiting trips like Texas or Baylor or UTA?
Yeah, I did. I went on 3 trips. I went to Texas. I went up to North Texas, and I went out to SMU.
Oh, and you went and saw Dave, huh?
Well, no, Dave wasn't there
yet. Yeah.
The track coach at SMU at the time, his name was Jim Parr.
Okay.
But, one thing I did fail to mention to you, when I was in high school, there were times that Coach Perkins would take us out to SMU and we'd throw with Sam Walker out there, and he'd watch us and work with us out there and all. So, it was hard for me to say no to SMU, with Sam there. And I had another friend, a guy, he'd been from Kilgore. His name was Mark Wallman. He ended up throwing the shot at SMU. And Mark and I had known each other through summer track circles for a number of years. And, it was hard to say no to Coach Parr and those guys. But I'll be honest with you, I just always had wanted to go to Texas. And when I got the opportunity, I couldn't say no.
Yeah. So I have to ask, what was your impression of Sammy, walking around with those big old thighs and those short white shorts? Sammy was known for those white shorts.
Yeah. Sam was a character. He was, but I'm going to be honest with you. There were a lot of characters I came in contact through my throwing day.
Yes, sir. I bet so.
I bet you. Well, he was a legend coming out of high school, and for what
he was
with the national, and plus too, I'm sure you had to kind of maybe see some similarities in yourself and him, because he wasn't a big statured guy either, and he got by on technique and explosive and speed through the ring as well.
Right, he sure did. And another thing, Sam was from went to Samuel High School, which is right over here in Pleasant Grove. It's close to us here in Mesquite. So it was, the 2 schools were fairly close together and all. Of course, he's a little bit older than I was, and I didn't really start learning a whole lot about him until I got in high school, and he was already at SMU. But it was always great. Kids would go out there and work with Sam, quite often. He always welcomed us to come out there and throw with him.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if my time period's right, but Michael Carter, did y'all have any overlap?
Yeah, he was a freshman when I was a senior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So did y'all throw against any other meets in your senior year? Did y'all cross paths then?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we sure did. Conference meet.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a few there and all, but yes, we sure did.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you go on your recruiting trip, University of Texas. After you go to Austin, was it a slam dunk? Is this where you're going? And were you decided that was a commitment you couldn't turn down?
Yes, no doubt. That's it. Like I said, it was hard, because I had friends out at SMU and thought the world of Coach Parr, but I couldn't say no.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, going down there, was it, because you're jumping up in 16 pounds, to that 16-pound ball, did you train with any of that in your summer meets, or was it kind of, a novelty to you?
No, I did. And
you did?
It was an adjustment. I'm just going to tell you, I am not the biggest bone individual in the world, which kind of came back and haunted me in college. I'm pretty thin boned guy, and had some hand problems and stuff. But the 16-pound shot was an adjustment to me, because it's like I told you, most of my success had been through speed and quickness in high school, and you got to have a little bit more than just that, when you start dealing with that 16-pound shot. So it was definitely an adjustment. So it helped me, being in summer track, in between my senior year in high school and my freshman year in college. But that was kind of an adjustment summer. But, I lost to a few guys I hadn't lost to before. And it was, you realize real quick, hey, you're going to have to get in the weight room and get some weight on those bones and stuff. And so it was an adjustment for me.
Did you put on some weight your freshman year going into that? Yeah,
I think by the time I got to UT, I was probably 205, something like that, but still small compared to, and the other thing I'll mention here too is I walked into a situation there. When I Coach Price down there took a chance on me, like I said, I'm sure thankful that he did, and I'm sure Coach Perkins helped sell me a lot. But I walked into a situation where Jim McGoldrick, who was a senior when I was a freshman, and Dana LeDuc, Jim had just won the NCAAs as a junior in the distance.
Yeah,
and Dana got hurt, or probably would have won the NCAAs when he was a junior. He wasn't able to throw at the NCAA meet, So I walk into a situation where I'm surrounded by two of the best throwers in the world, to be honest with you, at that time. And so I'm still, as I've reflected on all this, I'm like, I can't believe there weren't high school throwers knocking the door down to go to school down there so they could work with those two guys. Yeah. But you talk about, I couldn't have been in a better situation.
No. Well, so were they, and I know Dana, so were they accepting of you? Because you're walking in, as a 205 freshman, and Dana's walking around all buff with his tank top on, big man on campus as a junior. Were they accepting of you? Did you have to kind of earn your way with them? What was kind of that first impression?
Well, Dana wasn't around a lot in the fall. Dana had come up to Dallas, and he was living with Sam Walker, and they were training. I think it was Olympic year that year. And
they were going to Spoons.
Yeah, that's right. They were going to Spoons. And so Dana had been up here. So I was mainly working with Jim. Okay. Jim was down there in the fall, and Dana would come down occasionally, during the fall. But I really got in with Dana, when he came at semester and all.
Okay.
But were they accepting? They were, but you had to earn they were demanding. I'll say that. It was an experience.
Well, you strike me, Robbie, as someone who, even at that early of age, just had some mental fortitude and maybe just a little stubborn-headed that, you were going to say, okay, I might not look the same as you, but I'm going to show you that I can just do what you do. Is that kind of your approach?
Well, yeah, it was. That's what you hit the nail on the head, So, but it was just, I'm going to say this. My association with those guys and some of the guys that I was able to come in contact with because of those guys, it made me be a whole lot better than I ever would have been if I hadn't been in that environment.
Really?
I don't think I would have ever attained what I did if it hadn't been for those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like I said, they were seniors then. And ironically, I guess when I was a junior, my junior year in college, I got a teammate from Iceland named Oscar Jacobson. And and then Kelly Brooks was another guy that came in, and man, I owe so much to being around people like that were just so good, and work hard, willing to work hard. That's the one thing I could tell you is we worked really hard, and a lot of time in the weight room, and it was no joke. You worked hard when you were down there, but you didn't last very long.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll tell you, and you look at your career at UT, it's a good one. You weren't no slouch, 54 as a freshman, going to 16 pounds. Now, your sophomore year in 1977, you got hurt, right? Did you re-hurt your knee, or what happened with that?
No, we had actually gone down to it was an outdoor meet. It was a dual meet we had with A&M over at College Station, and I lost the shot off my middle finger, and it kind of hyperextended my, and that and it's ironic because that's actually the injury Dana had when he wasn't able to throw at the NCAA meet when he was a junior and all. But I will say this, he went on as a senior and won the NCAA. So, me talking about being around good people, I was around 2 NCAA champions, there at Texas, as a youngster. And, that ended it for me. But that was probably, to be honest with you, Jason, a blessing in disguise, because I needed to get bigger and stronger. And I was the only thrower after Dana and Jim left. There wasn't anybody else. And
good point.
But I needed the red shirt that year, and thank goodness it all turned out like it did.
Yeah. So that red shirt year, you just basically eat and lived and lifted and just lived. Really.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
How much weight you put on that year? Do you remember?
I probably. It seems like by the end of my freshman year, I'd gotten up to about 220, 225, somewhere in there. So I probably put on another. I threw most of the time at Texas at 235 pounds. Kind of occasionally would bounce between 240 and 235, but I could hold 235. I couldn't hold anything above it. I tried. I wanted to get, but I did everything I knew to do, but I just couldn't get a whole lot bigger.
I have to ask this. You go to these Southwest Conference meets, and there's Baylor and SMU and Houston and Tech and some of those guys. Southwest. You had to be the smallest thrower, right?
I was. That's pretty right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And you, in that mentality, you were just like, I'm going to prove that I'm worthy to be here.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right.
That's awesome.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the expectations were high.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we had won, even before I got to UT, we'd won several Southwest Conference track championships and all. And it was just expected, I mean, you either do or you don't. And so I was willing to work hard. That's one thing I haven't had a problem with. That's one thing I've always attributed to my high school coaches, football coaches, Coach Perkins. They taught me the value of hard work. Actually, when I didn't mention this, but when I was a senior in high school, my football team had advanced the state finals. We lost the state championship game that year, but it was the first time our high school had ever gotten that far. And
you were injured.
I got injured in the second playoff game. I got hurt early in the season and just played hurt, but I got wiped out in our second playoff game, and that was it. But still, just the fact being on a team like that, was really special and all. But they were very demanding, and it was very good because a lot of times when I got to college, you needed to know how to work hard. And, there were a lot of guys that came and went, didn't stay very long when they didn't have that work ethic. Because, that first year when I had Jim and Dana there, I had people on my butt pushing me hard. But, after that, it wasn't when they were gone, I had to do a lot of it on my own and all. So that probably as much as anything has been what I attribute a lot of my success to.
The first time you ever lifted with Dana, did he call you any nicknames or make fun of you?
He's had so many nicknames for me. I couldn't. We better not go there.
I understand.
I not need to say
I
it.
understand for sure. Well, you go to your sophomore year, you make it to conference, you get third in at your sophomore in the Southwest Conference. Look how far you came from your senior year to what you're doing in basically less than 3 years. What a huge accomplishment.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Probably when I look back on it, my sophomore year in college was it was obviously the most consistent because I was hurt most of the next 2 years. And I stayed healthy that year. And, my goal, it's as the year started off, I got better every week. And that was my goal. I want to throw better this meet than I did last week and all. And, Coach Price kind of pulled me aside and he said, I'm proud of you. You keep going, but I don't want you to be shook if this doesn't keep happening because this isn't typical. He said, usually you hit a mark and you have to stay there, that area, you pound it and pound it and pound it. And when you get real consistent at that PR or whatever, that's usually when the next jump comes and all. And so he said, if you don't improve it the next week, as long as you're in the ballpark, you're okay, so I needed to hear that because that was part of my goal. Hey, this next week, I want to be better this week than I was last week. But it was, I had a really good year. Our team really fell off that year. We weren't very good as a team, but I was kind of one of the shining lights that year as a sophomore. I really hit on the discus that year. Was my best year ever throwing the discus, and I hadn't thrown it a whole lot, but my technique just kind of fell into place, and I was able to finish 5th at the conference meet in the discus that year, which I was real proud of. And I was very disappointed. I wanted to win the conference championship as a sophomore, and University of Houston had a couple of really good throwers at the time, Randy Kaufman and Mark Boffman. They were really good, but they won. Randy won first and Mark second at the outdoor meet that year, and I finished 3rd.
Oh wow!
But it was really a disappointment. But overall, the year was pretty good. I mean, I had thrown 59 feet that year to qualify for the NCAAs. I didn't do very well at the NCAAs. That was a new experience, going up to that. But I got to compete in Eugene, Oregon at Hayward Field. And that's, as you look back on it, that was a special thing just to say that you'd competed at that place.
Yeah, for sure. Now, was there any, I'm have to ask, because University of Texas and being around Dana, you probably got exposed to some of the big throwers in the U.S. Is there anybody like you looked up to? Did you happen to watch any, or find books on Al Feuerbach, or did you hear anything about Matt Wilkins in those time period during that era, or even Dallas Long and those guys?
Oh, yeah. Dana had gone to a lot of, I say a lot, he'd gone to, so they had him, the United States had him in some of those Olympic training camps and all. And Dana would always he had thrower tapes, and we'd go in and sit and watch, film and all, and study all that. And Feuerbach's a guy, other than Dana helped change my form up a little bit, but Feuerbach's the guy that I really tried to emulate as a coach, in high school. When I was working with high school throwers, the other guy, y'all got to help me. I'm getting old here. The San Jose police officer that used to hold the world record in 70s, John Powell.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a book that they put out, a comparison book, between John Powell's technique and Mac Wilkins' technique.
Yes. Yeah.
And I really felt like, John Powell's technique was about as simplified, as you could get. And I tried to keep, teaching my throwers in the discus, especially, try to keep it as simple as possible. And I used a lot of his principles and all, but Feuerbach obviously was kind of one of my idols because he wasn't the biggest guy in the world.
Exactly. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah. So I really tried to, I worked countless hours on that right hip, driving that right knee, when you'd hit the middle of that ring, trying to get that hip drive through there and all that. You'd watch Feuerbach he was something else watching him, there. So just countless hours, trying to perfect that and all.
Wow. Did you, and I'm have to ask, even speeding to your junior, senior year, did Perkins or anybody or Price talk to you anything about maybe, and I know this is kind of a rotational shot put or anything, was I know that was kind of a European thing at that time, but was it even brought up?
No, we talk about it a little bit, but kind of the philosophy, there may have been some Europeans. The one guy that was doing it was Brian Oldfield.
Yeah.
And, he was in that pro track. He'd gotten in that pro track circuit and, set that world record, doing that. We had that on film and we'd watch it. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I was athletic enough, I know, trying to do that spin, we played with it a little bit and all, but just trying to, I wish I'd had somebody that could have really worked with me on that though. I think that, seeing what some of these guys are able to attain with it, and just the rotational aspect of being able to get your hips through as opposed on the glide, hitting the middle of the ring and having to really force it through as opposed to it just happening natural, and with the rotation, I think it could have been real positive. And I think you're seeing that today with so many of these guys throwing that way.
For sure.
Well, I know when we talked with Randy Matson about this, he said that spinning was cheating. I think he said he messed with it some, but that Ron Krauser cheats.
Have you ever had a chance to meet Randy during your, that A&M Texas rivalry and stuff?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I did meet him that day I got hurt. He was actually running the shot put off that day. And
really?
He was, so he probably wouldn't remember me, but he was actually officiating the meet that day down at College Station. So,
wow.
And he was another one that, all those guys, you idolized them and all.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. He's still alive and trucking along, living in College Station. So
is he really?
Yeah. I text him every now and then, when Ryan broke the world record, we exchanged a couple of texts and he's just living life. Happy to see what's going on in track and field for sure. So
that's great. That's great.
Going to your senior year, you make All-American, you make it to that NCAA, you're All-American that year. Was your mindset to kind of win it all that year, your senior year?
Well, I'm going to tell you, my junior and senior both were injury riddled.
Really?
I was telling you about these small bones and stuff. I had all kinds of problems with my wrist and all with that 16-pound shot. Took its toll on me, and I strained some muscle. I had muscle pulls and stuff, and it was just, probably the highlight of my throwing career came at the Southwest Conference meet my junior year.
Okay.
And what had actually taken place, I had thrown, I want to say over 58 feet at the indoor championships in Fort Worth that year. I guess it was in January, and finished second. And then the injuries started piling up, and we'd gone out to Kidd Field out at UTEP, and that's about maybe one other one. I can't remember. I think I threw 54 something out there. I'd been hurt most of the year, hadn't gone to many meets, and it just had been a disaster, to be honest with you. Well, we had a trainer at Texas, and he concocted a tape job for me to try in practice. Basically, I don't know. I don't want to get too intricate with this, but I mean, he would take my wrist, and then he would take tape and wrap it around all my fingers, and then take tape and take it from where he'd wrapped around my fingers kind of down to my wrist area, and kind of made a brace so I couldn't go too far back, if you understand what I'm saying, with the shot. And I could do that. I mean, I could use that tape job, and I could practice then because it wasn't aggravating my wrist and all. And so I was able to practice, and I was able to do that for about 2 weeks out from the Southwest Conference outdoor meet. And so I was ready to throw at the outdoor meet at Southwest Conference, and nobody expected anything out of me because, like I said, I'd been hurt all year. I had made that 58 throw indoor and finished second, but like I said, only about 54 feet outdoors, and I was having some nice throws in practice for those 2 weeks leading up to Southwest Conference meet. So I felt really pretty confident going into that meet, and lo and behold, I shocked them that night. It was his best throw I ever had. I ended up hitting 62 feet. Can still visualize that. I mean, it was, everything just came together. It was perfect.
It was a perfect throw.
It was as close to it as it can get. I'm sure I don't know if we ever hit perfection, but just the state of mind that I was in, and nobody, I was written on. Nobody expected anything, so it shocked the heck out of them. I wish I had won. Oscar beat me that night, but we ended up going 1-2.
Yeah,
and it was really big, helping the team as far as getting back to winning the conference championship again that year. So that was probably the highlight of my throwing career that night.
Were you? Now, I have to ask this. Were you a yeller? When you hit that 62, did we have a big scream?
I was. Amen. Yes, sir.
Love it.
That's the only way it should be.
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
That's amazing.
I don't know if you were ever down there where the shot put ring used to be, before they took the track out of Memorial Stadium. But
yeah,
we were over in that corner, and it was great. People could line. They'd put bleachers right up there, and then people kind of sat on the grass right there. So it was a great place to throw.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people talked about how nice the Mike Myers Track Stadium is down there, but I remember the first time I had some kids that we took down there for the Texas Relays, and I'm in the stands, and I feel like I need binoculars to watch the event, and I'm thinking, man, this is not good. So I know it's a great track stadium, but it's nothing for throwers like it was back in the day when we were over in that corner, and people were all on top of you. It was a great environment.
Yeah. Do you still go to Texas Relays? I know you're retired now. You have more time, and we just got back from Texas Relays. Do you still go down there and watch some of the meets? Do you keep up with what's going on currently at the University of Texas?
Well, they've really caught my attention this year since they won the indoor championship, and really proud of them there. I didn't make it down there this year. They usually always have a big track letterman's get together at the Texas Relays, and once I got into coaching, I rarely had time to go to that. I think maybe I went once or twice my whole track coaching career, and that would just be a deal where I'd jump in a car and run down there on Saturday morning, and go to the meet, because we usually had a track meet on Friday night or whatever, But anyway, once I've retired, I've been able to go back. Of course, COVID kind of wiped out some of the Letterman's stuff, for a couple years there, and they had it a little bit. Usually they would have a get-together meal for us on Friday nights and stuff. They didn't have that this year, so And I forget, we'd been out of town on my son's spring break the week before that. So it just wasn't good timings. I didn't make it this year, but hopefully everything will get back on cue next year, be able to go back next year.
Now, what did you get your degree? What did you graduate with from the University of Texas?
Physical education. I had a Bachelor of Science in Physical Education. They've changed the name of that major now to kinesiology. And so that's what it is now. And had a minor in history. I was a history minor.
There you go. That's me. I'm a minor in history as well. So was that your mindset? Did you have plans of, okay, when I'm through here, I'm going to get into keep teaching and coaching?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I went into college thinking I wanted to do. And, you know, being around Dana as much. Dana and I actually roomed together for a couple of years. You know,
you did room with Dana.
Yeah. He had a condo, and he convinced me to leave campus. I was one of those guys. I liked being on campus. You know, I mean, the dorm at time would be a little chaotic, and I'd have to go study over in the library and all. But I liked having access to the athletic dining hall, and wasn't wild about cooking and all. But yeah, I went and I lived with Dana for a couple of years and all. So
that had to be fun. We need to have a separate podcast about you living with Dana for 2 years.
We don't need to do a podcast on that.
So I have to ask, did you ever go back home? I think Dana was from Kansas initially.
I don't.
No, he's originally from Washington State. He went to college his first year at KU.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever go back home to Washington with him?
No, I never did.
Okay.
His dad, I knew his dad pretty well, and knew his mom. His dad would come down and visit, once or twice a year, seemed like, and all. Great man. And but I've actually only been in Washington State one time when my parents had their 50th wedding anniversary. They wanted to take their family up on a Alaskan cruise, so we flew into Seattle, and spent the night, and then got on the boat the next day. But that's really the only time I've been in Washington State.
Wow, cool. So you get it through your senior year, you graduate. I know you tried a couple of meets in that 1981 year. You had some little bit of success, but was you already thinking about coaching and teaching and going down that road?
Well, really at the time, when 81, I told you about all the injuries that I'd had there in my junior and senior year. 81, really, I stayed more healthy that year than I had the previous 2 years. So I just couldn't pop the PR that year. But as far as consistency goes, nearly every meet I went to, I threw 60 something, 61 plus something. It just, the big one just never, it never came. But, I was able to go to Mount Sac relays and U-Staff meet up in Wichita, Kansas, and had actually won an indoor meet up in Oklahoma City. Coach J.D. Martin at Oklahoma was good to me. He let me come up there. It's hard to try to find meets a lot of times when you're an unattached guy, but he was good about letting me come up there a couple of times and throw, which I really appreciated, especially being a Texas guy. Getting to come up there and stuff. I mean, you're looking for meets. Where can I get into a meet and all, but I got to go to some nice meets that year and all. I just, I threw over 61 feet at that indoor meet in Oklahoma City. I just couldn't pop it, past that. And, Dana ended up being able to get a graduate assistant, for the strength program and asked me if I wanted to come back and take that job. And I went back the next fall and took it. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Did y'all work together as a strength and conditioning? Condition, really?
Yeah. He was, I was his first graduate assistant down there. Back in those days, it wasn't anything like it is now. Those strength guys didn't have a whole lot of staff. If any, Dana was pretty much doing it all by himself, all sports. I mean, these guys these days, they got strength coaches for football, for basketball. Every sport seems to have its own guy. That wasn't the way it was back in those days. So, I was his first GA, and I mean, just we did it all.
The Texas Track and Field Coaches Association. Coaches education through our annual Winter Clinic, the state's #1 track and field clinic. Texas Track and Field Promotion. Our postseason Meet of Champions. Lobbying efforts with the state's governing bodies. The Texas Track and Field Hall of Fame. If it involves Texas Track and Field, we're at the forefront. Join our mission in continuing to make Texas Track and Field the nation's best.
I have to ask this, and did he incorporate a lot of the stuff that he got from Spoon's gym and stuff from Sammy into that strength and conditioning program? Because I know he's kind of the first one that kind of did the periodization and the programming and stuff for female athletes in this sport, for other sports. Did y'all kind of follow suit with that?
Oh yeah, we did. You'd have to ask him exactly where he picked it all up. I mean, he obviously through his throwing career, he was exposed, to a lot of good people and all. I mean, I can remember the guys coming through down there. Ben Plucknett, you remember Ben?
I remember the name.
Was the world record holder in the discus. He was throwing at the University of Missouri, and I think on his spring break, maybe my freshman year, he came down, spent a week down there, to work out with Dana. So I'm exposed to a guy like that. Jesse Stewart, who'd been a great shot putter, was down there for several days, and there's several others. Some of the names slipped my mind. I can remember, so, I mean, man, I was in good company, big time company, and that's why I say I attribute a lot of the success I had to just being in an environment like that.
Wow. Blessed for sure.
So like you started at the beginning, success breeds success. So you're around those people that are successful in it.
Yeah.
It can be contagious.
So you leave there and you come to Plano, and you're assistant football coach, track and field throws coach. That had to be a great, wonderful experience, for you, right? Giving back to what, your coaches gave to you and what you learned from the University of Texas.
Yeah. It was a little bit different spending 2 years working with college kids, and then, to go back into working with high school kids for a while, but I enjoyed it. I really did. I still, at that time, I had desire, to be a collegiate strength coach. Oh. And I just, at the end of my second year as a GA at Texas, I guess that was, the end of the spring of 1983. I couldn't find a strength coaching job, out there. And it was time I need to start making some money and all. You don't make much when you're a GA. And so I needed to do that. And that job at Plano East came open. So I went over there and it was a learning experience. I'll say that, especially teaching history in the classroom, was.
How old were you? 25?
I guess I was probably 24, 25 somewhere. 25. Wow. Yeah, I believe I was, now that you mention it. So, it was eye-opening and all. I still had the desire, to be a strength coach. And I had made some connections. Jim Wacker was the football coach down Southwest Texas, right down the road there. And there was a guy named Tim Takel who was on his staff there at Southwest Texas. And Tim had a brother, Craig, that had played football at Texas. And so, I knew Tim, and he really helped me, as far as when the strength coaching job at TCU opened up. I knew those guys, and it's not always what you know, it's who you know. A lot of times, get your foot in the door. And also, I was fortunate enough to land that job over at TCU, and I actually left Plano East before the year was out. I think I left maybe in April, something like that, to go to TCU as the strength coach over there.
And you were there for 5 years, correct?
About 5 years, yeah.
Wow. Did you get to work with track and field and football, or they kind of separate you out?
Just strictly in the weight room. I walked in. I walked in over there, and it was the same deal Dana had experienced at Texas. I was it. There wasn't any help,
Wow.
Yeah, I got a GA. I think after my first year, they gave me a GA, and first or second year, and it was me and my GA, that did the work over there. Once he came, but until I got him, it was just me running all the programs in the weight room. There just wasn't time. I mean, I had teams coming at me, all day long for the most part, and I was dealing pretty much with all sports over there.
Wow. I have to ask the strength and conditioning coach, because I'm a big advocate for that and all that type of stuff, and big for Olympic lifting. I'm curious, why isn't Olympic lifting more popular among our multi-sport athletes?
Why is it not?
Yes, sir. Why is it not? And I'm saying, why wouldn't a basketball player or the female soccer player, want to do Olympic lifting, or, I don't want to say the golfer, but you know what I'm saying, or the outfielder in baseball. All those sports need to be explosive and movement sports. Why didn't they should Olympic lift?
It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to lay down on that bench press and push that bar up like I do these days, compared to doing those cleans and snatches. That's tough. And then, there's technique involved. I mean, you got to have somebody to teach them that knows exactly what they're doing, or it's easy to get somebody hurt. And I'm not saying there's not people that can't teach them. I'm sure there are, but that's what I attribute it to is, I mean, you got to be willing to work hard at it. I mean, that's those cleans, those snatches, that's hard work, man.
Yeah. So true. So you're there for 5 years, have a lot of success, but you kind of get the itch to go back to Mesquite, right?
Yeah. A guy that I had actually worked with over in Plano East ended up at my old high school, and a guy who had coached me when I was in high school, he was one of my freshman coaches, Mickey Delamar, got the head coaching job there. And to be completely honest with you, I think maybe I'd gotten burned out just a little bit, just being constantly in the weight room. And I just said, I'd like to get back on the field a little bit and all. And when the opportunity presented itself, I took it. I'll be honest with you. I've never been a guy that was really interested in moving all over the place. And I knew that pretty well comes with college coaching. You're going to have to move, and when you move, a lot of times you're moving to all areas of the country and all, and that just really didn't appeal to me a whole lot at that time. So I said, I'm going to go give this a try and all. And I was actually, it was really a good high school job, because they were letting me teach physical education, weight training. So I had weight training classes there, and then of course I was working with all the athletic teams as far as the weight room goes. And so I didn't lose that aspect of it, but I was also a position coach now in football, and then able to start working with the throwers again in track and field. So
wow.
At the time, I thought it was the thing to do, so.
Were y'all 4A back then or 5A?
We were 5A then. It was before 6A. There was no 6A at the time, I mean, once 6A came into being, we became a 6A school, but we were 5A then.
Wow. So did you take some of those principles of glide shot put and you implemented to some of your throwers you were coaching there at Mesquite?
Oh yeah. All of it, I mean, everything that I had learned, and like I said, as far as the discus stuff, I used a lot of John Powell's principle stuff. Yeah. Linear approach to the discus and all. And mainly just for simplicity. The thing that I really tried to stress was if I could get, whether it was a shot or the discus, if I could get to the kids to the power position in the middle of the ring, and they could either, the shot or the disc, they kept it back.
Yeah.
So you watch high school kids, and the times they hit the middle, they got the shot all out in front of them and stuff, or, I mean, but that's the things I really tried to emphasize. We need to hit a good power position and keep the implement back. Now we've got a chance to push on the shot a long way, or pull on the discus, a long way. And those are the things that I really tried to hammer with those kids.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. So what led you to become the head football coach at Mesquite High? Because that's kind of an uncomfortable territory, you know.
Yeah, it was. You know, some things just kind of came about. Of course, I'd been over there since I went back there in January of 1980. Yeah. I'd been there a long time, and our head coach ended up leaving, guy I'd been working with. And, you know, it was kind of late in the year when all this happened. And me and one other guy on staff is really kind of late, you know, to go out and start trying to bring somebody new in. I mean, we are actually, our head coach didn't really decide he was going to leave until we were already in spring football at the time. And so it was late. And, you know, the offer, you know, they talked to me about it, and I struggled with it. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't sure if this was the thing to do, but prayed a lot about it. And, you know, they decided to offer it to me. So I took it. We had some tough times, you know. We had a couple of really good years there. 2011, we went 3 rounds in the playoff. 2012 was really our good year. We went undefeated that year, and unfortunately, we ran into Kyler Murray and Allen in the second round of the playoffs, and we probably played them as well as anybody did, though, that year. Just to be honest with you, if we could have gotten by those guys, who knows, you know? But that's neither here nor there. And then had some rough times too. I'll just be honest with you. So, but it's all been good. It's been a learning experience, and you know, have met a lot of great people through all this.
For sure. What an amazing story. You know, a guy, old thrower in high school, hurts his knee, goes to Texas, becomes around all these great throwers, and you wind up a head football coach for over a decade.
I don't know. You know, good Lord had his hand in a lot of it. Sometimes I still ask him, why'd you do this to me? You know, but you know, I've been blessed.
For sure. Do you still keep up with throwing and what's going on in the world currently with, you know, Ron breaking the world's record and like Valerie Allman and stuff?
More so since I've retired. I've been able to, you know, to watch a little bit more. You know, prior to that, I was just so busy. It was hard, you know, to find a lot of time for it. But yeah, I would, you know, obviously I was aware of Krauser when he was at Texas and all, and watching those guys do good. I always kind of kept an eye on what was going on down there. You know, there's another football player played on the national championship team, Brian Robinson, threw really, really well for them back. I guess that was around 2004 or 5, you know, in there. And then, of course, the kid they've got now, Trip. Yeah, he's doing great. He's doing great. So, it's been nice. And, you know, just I try to watch it a little bit more now than I did. I'm still not familiar with who all's out there throwing, but the Texas guys I'm pretty well aware of.
I'm curious about something, and you know, you being a high school football coach in the state of Texas, you know, as we keep going, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. How do we get kids who are, you know, a guard who might not be D1 talent, you know, at that 6'5", he might be 6 foot 240. How do we get those kids interested in throwing? What would be some advice, you know, from an expert like yourself to other coaches that might be listening?
Oh, it's tough, you know, because when I reflect back, like I told y'all, there wasn't a whole lot going on in the summers other than baseball and track, and now so many other things, you know. I know I would. You know, when I was coaching throwers at Mesquite, a lot of times if I didn't have somebody coming up, you know, that had been with me since they were freshmen, just because that's what they wanted to do, or even if I did, if I saw a kid that I thought had the athletic potential to be pretty good or whatever, I'd go search them out, go sit down and talk to them. I said, I want you to come throw for me this year.
Really?
Had one big old kid, that we taught to throw the shot and disc, and he ended up placing second at the district meet. He was a good athlete. He actually played college football at Louisiana Tech, and but he's one I just went and searched out and said, I knew with that long, I mean, he's about 6'7", you know, and I said,
wow.
knew with that long wingspan, you know, if I could just keep him staying back and just pushing on that shot, that he had a chance to be pretty good. He ended up throwing over 50 feet, and you know, I don't know. I mean, you're gonna have to make a push for it, and you know, try to get kids interested and all. I don't know to what degree, you know, the summer track programs I'm sure they're still out there. To what degree they're out there, I don't know anymore and all. But yeah, you got to probably reach out and try to recruit them and all, and encourage them to come. And you know, obviously, like we talked about, success breeds success. So if you can get them out there and they can start having some success, that seems to keep them interested and all. But there's a lot of things that you know, seem to interest kids these days. You know,
I think there are some kids that still don't realize. You know, I think they think there's summer track, but it's just running. They don't realize that you can throw. Like I talked to an 8th grader just the other day at a meeting. He goes, "You can do that like outside of school?" Because I said something about in college they throw in college. Yeah, there are these, you know, it's more than just the Olympics or more. They just don't realize that is something you can go out and do and trying to.
Yeah. And I think too, on the opposite side of that was go out and recruit, but also type 2 is talking to you. And I wish I came across your path earlier, is educating the coaches as well. Because I think sometimes too, these football coaches get thrown into their second sport being football and no throwing experience whatsoever.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. Go to any high school meet anywhere, and you can sit there and watch some of those kids, and you know there's not anybody that's really coached them up very much.
Yeah. And that's a little frustrating with that. You know, I wish we could, you know, get more teaching of shot and disc and, you know, some of these clinics out there, whether it be the big coaches clinic in the summer or something locally out like that, you know, to just really educate the thrower coaches out there as well.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, you're right. You know, that's one of the things we were blessed with. We had great staff, you know, as far as track goes at Mesquite High. Most of those years, we had guys that were really interested in what they were doing, and they took it to heart, you know, and coached those kids hard.
And I'm curious, when you coached at Mesquite, the throwers, did you coach boys and girls side?
I did, yes. Now, as it turned out, most of the time we weren't at the same meets as our girls, you know, during those days. And so if there was a conflict, I usually went with the boys to their meet and all. But, you know, there were some meets where we had boys and girls together, and I was able to see them both. But during the week, I would work with both of them. I didn't initially, you know, the programs were pretty separated, you know, when I first started out, but after a period of time, it became much more entwined and all. And so I eventually took them over. Actually, you know, I ended up with 2 kids during my career that made it to the state meet, one boy and one girl. The girl's name was Jordan Brown. And quite frankly, Jordan, you know, she didn't really know she wanted to be a thrower till, I mean, she was blessed. She was such an athlete, but she just didn't, you know, she was a cheerleader also. And she didn't spend much time at it. And lo and behold, she comes out and qualifies for the regional meet, and then goes to the regional meet and makes it to state, you know, and this is with very little time spent, you know, and ends up finishing second in the shot at the state.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, so that's when the light came on for her. And she actually walked on at Texas and became a fairly decent thrower down there, you know. And
good for her.
Yeah, you know, so you know, it's just got to spend time with it, you know. It's like anything else, and it's got to be a passion. And unfortunately, the passion didn't hit for her, you know, really until too late, because she could have probably won multiple state championships. She was that gifted, you know.
Wow.
But
Yeah. Did she wind up graduating from the University of Texas?
as far as I know, I really haven't talked to her in a long time and
Gotcha.
all. That's been some years back now, but yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I don't know what she's doing nowadays.
Wow. So what are you doing nowadays? You're retired. You living? You're still married. Your wife is taking care of you. What are you doing these days?
Well, I try to help my folks. I've still got both my parents are
Awesome.
still alive, and I try to help them out. You know, my dad had a stroke a few years back, and I try to help out my mom, you know, with getting him to things like speech therapy and all. We found a program through University of Texas at Dallas, and they've been great, you know, about working with my dad and all. It's a program where they actually train their speech therapists. And so a couple of days a week, I take my dad over there. It's over at a place called the Collier Center over off Inwood Road. And so we go over there a couple of days a week and, you know, just, you know, involved with that. And then, you know, my son's coaching, try to go see his athletics, you know, regardless what he coaches football, and they're
Where's he
introducing. He's right now he's at Kimbrough Middle School here in Mesquite.
Okay.
He's been he was at Armstrong Middle School in Plano when he started out, and spent a couple years coaching over at South Garland High School, but he's back in Mesquite now, and they're actually implementing soccer in the middle schools this year. So he's fixing to start his middle school soccer season this Wednesday night. So we'll be going there.
Awesome.
Yeah. But I've gotten me a bicycle. I go out to White Rock Lake and
Good for
ride
you.
my bicycle out there. Yeah. Lift a few weights here and there. We kind of got a home gym out in the garage. So
You still doing any snatches?
I'm one of those guys now that lays down on the bed.
I love that.
Oh, wow. That's
I
funny.
love that.
Well, good. Grandkids? Any grandkids?
No grandkids yet.
Okay.
No. Yeah, son, he's not married yet. So
Okay.
yeah, but maybe some point in the future.
Yeah. I'm curious. You seem like you're in overall good health. When's the last time you threw?
Well, it's been a while. I really probably back when I was coaching the throwers, I'd play
Okay.
with it a little bit. I'll tell you, I've had some real, you know, and I'll be honest with you. I always said, I used to tell Oscar, I said, you know, when I'd ask him, you know, when do they start masters meets and stuff like that, you know, and I forget what I don't remember if it's 50 or 60, whatever it was,
Yeah.
but man, I had a lot of foot problems, you know, through coaching. I battled plantar fasciitis and all kinds of mess, and my feet aren't in the best of shape anymore. And you know, maybe some of that happened for some of that gliding and spinning.
Yeah.
You know? So I just, you know, I walk, I ride my bike, and I just don't want to take a chance on flaring those feet up. I mean, they're in rotten enough shape as they are right now anyway, you know. So I didn't follow through with my master's goals, you know.
Well, you know, now that at 50 they changed it, so now you go back to the 12-pound ball.
Do you?
And I think at 65,
Yeah, I think it goes.
65, they drop it down even more.
Down 8-pound shot at 65.
I think it's 8. I think it's a 4K or 10. I'll have to ask Carol on that, but it does drop down. Point being, you know, that, you know, you might want to go visit your own teammate at Lockhart, and we might bust out those old throwing shoes, and you know, you might could make your debut.
I'd probably have to be one of those guys that just stands at the front of the ring now. And
Hey, do it. Hey, there's plenty of those out there. We were just down there, and I shit you not, there was an 84-year-old man that did a 2-wind, 1-turn throw.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. In the hammer.
That's great. That's
And
great.
there's people shuffling, and there's people, you know, just going out there competing. So, you know, as long as you're still working, your body's still doing it, you can do it, sir. So not to push you into it.
Yeah, well, like I said, I try to stay active. I probably don't eat as well as I should, but
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, but like riding that bike, and
Good.
I like walking, and staying active is really important to me. So
Good.
yeah.
Thank you so much. What a
Well, guys,
great
thank
story.
y'all. I mean, I've really enjoyed this. I've been able to kind of reflect on things I hadn't thought about in a long time, and
Good.
I appreciate what y'all are doing. And you talk to Carol Finsrud, tell her I said hello.
I will. I'll see her Saturday.
Well. Any of those guys, Sam. I would see Sam. Sam was working for Whataburger when
He
I was
still
there.
is?
Yep, and he came by quite a few times, and we would buy from him.
Yeah.
He would supply our kids, for not only for track meets, for pre-football games and things like that. So Sam Walker's good people. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and that's the one thing you can say about most people I've come in contact with through throwing. Man, there's great folks, great people.
We have met some amazing people. He probably knew most of them beforehand because he loves the throwing, and I didn't. But now when you say all these names, I'm like, oh, we interviewed that person. Oh,
It's just throwing.
It's a tight community of
It is
a family of people, and everybody has some connection somewhere down the tree of throwing, I guess. And that's one reason this podcast is this kind of evolved, is to just bring light to what your story is and get it out there and let people know, because there is that really cool connection. And I probably would have never even heard of you or thought of you unless I went to the Texas Relays and became friends with Dana, and networking, and just, it is small, but the throwers in the world are great people. They care about each other. We want to keep each other's tail in the butt in the ring, but we're going to go have some beers and cigars afterwards.
Another thing I failed to mention to you, I saw that y'all had done a podcast with Steve Stewart.
Yes.
Ironically, when I was in high school, and I'm sure it was through Coach Perkins' connections, but we're over here in Mesquite, but it seemed like just about every weekend or every other weekend, we would go to a track meet where Fort Worth Richland was.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't remember the name of their high school coach, but I can still remember him. And we used to throw against each other a lot in high school. They had a really good throwing program over there. They had Steve. They had Tim Scott, who ended up throwing at A&M, and Randy Scott also threw some at A&M. And, I got kind of close to those guys when I was in high school. And then, we threw against each other in college. So, and I haven't seen or heard anything out of Steve in a long time. And I'm kind of surprised that our paths didn't cross, because from what I understand, he was a throws coach. And
Yes.
and just I didn't run into him a whole lot, but it's a lot different. There's a lot more schools in the Dallas area that were back, when we were in school.
Yeah. He's retired. I just saw him about a month ago. I went to Euless High. Well, their Bedford Central went to an LD Bell meet, and he was out there, and he was actually helping the starters, an organization. So Jerry Smith, who was the head track coach at LD Bell, just retired. Jerry came back and was the starter, and Steve came out there, and he saw one of my girls throw, and he coached me up on coaching her, so that was good.
I got you.
Just doing great, retired and still loving throwing, and what's funny is through him, I became good friends with Adam Setliff. And Adam, is an amazing story. Adam, paying it forward, is coaching a girl right now who is a junior who just threw over 170 at the Texas Relays.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And she, she's looking maybe for dual citizenship from her mother's side, from their home country, and has aspirations of throwing in the Olympics. And Adam has no business or anything, even helping this girl, because of Adam's who he is and the influences with Steve and some of the people that help Adam. Adam's paying it forward to this young lady. And, she might break the high school national record in the discus in 2 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great.
Sure.
I'm sure there's other people I think back, who helped me, Bishop Dolagevich from Canada. He went to Texas. He wasn't on the team there when I was there, but he was around. He actually became a GA with us down there when I was down there with the strength program. Rob Gray that threw out at SMU. That year that I was throwing unattached, I was back up here in the Dallas area, and I used to work out all the time with Rob.
Okay.
You know, I mean, just so many that have helped me and been influential, you know, in my life. And I feel very blessed, you know, to have had those associations with those guys. And I would like to see a lot of them. I haven't seen them and talked to them in a long time.
Well, maybe through this episode where you can talk to them. Hey, was Sue Humphreys at Texas when you were down there doing any time?
I remember the name. Help me out here now. She was coach, right?
Yeah, she coached. Yeah, she coached for a long period of time. High jump, triple jump, the jumps coach for a little while. She even dabbled and helped with the throws coach on the women's side initially too.
Okay. The women's throw coach, I remember Phil Delavan. You remember Phil?
I remember. I've heard the name.
Yeah, Phil was coaching the women when I was down there. Kathy Devine was one of his throwers, along with Carol, and so I think Sue came after I left from down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, cool.
I think we need to have a big Zoom with all of you guys that know it, with Sammy and Dana. You get Randy Matson in there, man. We can, and then throw in Ron Krauser. It would just be all of us in this one big Zoom meeting. Everybody would be talking at the same time.
No, but we would get nothing accomplished.
No, but it would be fun.
Yeah.
It would be
step
fun.
back and listen.
Yeah. Every time somebody said shot put or discus, we had to drink. I'm joking. Well, sir, thank you so much. We don't want to keep you any longer. I know it's probably getting late for you, and for us as well. So
I appreciate y'all very much. I've really enjoyed this. Thank y'all.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay. Y'all too. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Wow. He is the reason we kind of do this podcast. Robbie, just a tremendous throwing career at University of Texas, and just you can just tell, just loves throwing, loves coaching and teaching, and what he's done through his coaching career, from being a strength and conditioning coach to being head football coach at Mesquite High, just tremendous. And the coaches that influenced him as a youth to what he had, and he had no business being there at the University of Texas with those All-Americans and those big boys, but you just kind of got the feeling that, he's a little hard-headed, a little stubborn, and that, he was going to prove that he was worthy, I think, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I love something he said at the very beginning when he talked about his summer track program, which was, I feel like, a huge influence in him throwing. He goes, when I'm throwing in summer track, those boys I throw against in school year aren't out there. Because I didn't see those guys out there when I was throwing in summer track. So that's that you have to, put the time into it.
Yeah.
If it's something you want to do, you have to put the time into it. And then always success breeds success. So surround yourself with people who want to be successul in the area of throwing.
For sure.
That will lead to your success. So appreciate it, sir. It was an honor to have you on. You were very worthy of being on here. Like Kid said, talk with him forever.
For sure. So, go ahead.
All right. We want to thank our sponsors, Texas Track and Field Coaches Association. Go to ttfca.org. Can't say enough about all the wonderful information that's out there about what's going on in track and field in Texas. So go look at that. fourthrows.com. Get your quality implements priced right. Go to fourthrows.com. Use the code Talking to Us. Go to portacircle.com. Don't use and go to porta-circle.com and use the code TalkingThrows10. Porta Circle makes throwing more accessible. If you are in Austin, go see Zach Phillips at Ready Up Athletic Development. Check out his Instagram or on his Facebook, or go to readyupad.com, and then check us out. Check us out. That annoys him. Winning. Yes. Go to thethrowingfactory.com. You can look us up for some lessons. You got Coach Schmidt, Coach Kai Schmidt, got Morgan Knight, and you got Coach Charvis. So Lots of people out there willing to help you guys. And if you're looking for a summer track program,
or go shopping on our shopping page, please.
On our shopping page.
Yes, and then watch us on YouTube channel, and remind everybody about Lifting DFW. You can go to the website Lifting DFW. We're doing personal training, we're doing team training, consulting. So anything that you possibly need, feel free to reach me through the throwingfactory.com website about more information about Lifting DFW, please.
Hello, Talk and Throws Texas podcasters. I'm Bruce Caldwell. I'm here today to introduce the Fiber Sport Discus. Yes, many of you thought I only made great vaulting poles. I have been bringing quality discuses to the throwers' hands for over 40 years. First as Cantabrian USA representative, then for the past 10 years as the Nelco discus distributor. I introduced the yellow-plated discus for the plastic's best durability. If your Fiber Sport discus breaks, we replace it. Our studies have reached into the science of using a wind tunnel and adding microchips to the discus to find the spin, the gravity, the flight stability of the discus. We have found it's not about rim weight anymore. It's more about creating a balanced stability to allow the discus to fly and surf the wind. Our new Fiber Sport discus is made to be selected to fit your needs, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. Check out our discus selection guide at fibersportdiscus.com and find a dealer in your area that sells our fine product. Thank you, Jason and Janelle, for allowing me to talk with your listeners on Talk and Throws Texas Style.
That's it. Thank you, guys.